This is Pamela Kuhn, and the curtain is up on Center Stage, the show about the arts and the artists behind their work. Jean-Luc Godard said, "Photography is truth. Cinema is truth 24 times a second." Well, French cinema holds a special position in the world of the visual image. It is one of intimate invitations into the soul and encounters with emotions that simmer just underneath the skin of the actors and the director. Today, French cinema gives us sophistication and truth, as Godard said. And in Greenwich, Connecticut, the area is fortunate enough to have a film festival dedicated to some of the best French-speaking films that are on offer. The Focus on French Cinema Film Festival and the Alliance Française offers a highly regarded annual festival devoted to the art form, and this year is no different. Managing Director Renee Amory Ketchum works in tandem with her board for selections, and Joe Meyers, a distinguished journalist, film critic, and educator, is Director of Programming. I have Joe Meyers with me today. So, Joe, let's get right to it. Welcome back to Center Stage.
Thank you so much, Pam, for having me on again.
Oh, it's always a pleasure with you. I mean, you and I talk film.
We do. We do.
And we talked film last Sunday with your official opening of this wonderful festival with the musicians.
Yes, and you were great, and you were the perfect post-screening person for a Q&A with your background in classical music, and so happy. We were a hit. The film was a hit. People had a great time. It was a
Indeed.
perfect way to start this new kind of festival we're doing.
Well, let's get right into this. Let's talk about the new format for the Focus on French Cinema, Joe.
Well, it's sort of, I don't want to use the word forced on us, but as your listeners and viewers know, COVID did a job on everybody in 2020, and it theatrical movie theaters were in trouble before COVID. Okay, when I would go to multiplexes, the crowds were getting steadily smaller, and COVID combined with the fact that people were forced to stay home and discover this thing called streaming really was a semi-death blow to movie theaters. Many never reopened. Some are still hanging on and closing, but we lost the theater that traditionally was the home for the festival, the theater on Railroad Avenue in Greenwich, owned, I think, by Bowtie, where we would just sort of hunker down for 4 days of an intensive festival. We had 3 screens, and we would go from like 10 a.m. to 8 o'clock at night. So we were showing a ton of movies. We would have guests like Natalie Baye and Pio Marmai and Claude Lelouch, the great director, who would be there in person, and we would focus on their films. COVID ended all that. We no longer had a commercial theater in Greenwich to have as our headquarters. So the first year, when theaters were still closed everywhere, we decided to experiment with an online festival, which a lot of film festivals were doing in 2021.
Of course.
And I think we had 10 films, and it proved to be a roaring success, okay? Which we did it out of desperation. What we didn't stop to think was it expanded our audience, because when we get these films, we have the right to show them in the tri-state area. That we can't go national or anything like that. There's limits to what you can do with online bookings. But anyway, we got people in Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, who would have never come in person to Greenwich on that one weekend, to see the movies, and found a whole new audience. Again, double-edged sword, people who were wanting all their entertainment at home via streaming loved this idea of seeing 10 new French films at home. So we knew that was a success. When theaters reopened in limited numbers, we no longer had a theater in Greenwich. We did some events at the Avon. which sort of is, beyond the Greenwich territory where it was traditionally headquartered.
Right.
So the Greenwich International Festival faced the same challenge. So, and the Avon is an independent nonprofit theater which has their own programming. We couldn't just set up the whole festival in Stamford the way we did in Greenwich, and
Mm-hmm.
take them over.
Mm-hmm.
So we did limited screenings there, and they were successful. Our opening night was in Stamford, I think, for the last 4 years, however many years after the theaters reopened. But we knew that wasn't sufficient. We wanted something else. And fortunately, found out that the Bruce has this beautiful auditorium. The Bruce Museum is also only a couple of blocks from where the theater was. There's a ton of parking, which is vital these days for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And we experimented with showing a couple of films there last year, highly successful. And me and Renee and Mary Hardy, who's the third member of the selection committee, thought, well, maybe we should do more there. They seemed to like us being there. We liked the audience we got there on Sunday afternoons. So we came up with a new kind of hybrid festival model this year, in which we're having 5 screenings in person at the Bruce from January through February, March, through May, and a online film each month that will highlight. You don't have to pick from 10 in the course of 1 week and decide which ones you have time to see and which ones you don't. So we're showcasing them in a bigger way than we used to.
Yeah.
And it also gives us flexibility because in the early months of the year, you have festivals like Berlin. You have an event in Paris that Renee is currently at, screening new films.
Mm-hmm.
And so this gave us a new flexibility. If we find a film in January or February, we can plug it in for, say, May, April, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
in the olden days, we had to come up with all of the films in one clump, send out a press release, and we were locked in. You know what I mean? Whereas now we're doing it on a film by film basis, which I think gives us flexibility. And frankly, people plan at the last minute anyhow. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we're just going to put out press for each of the public screenings, and then also what you can watch at home. So judging by Sunday, that format is a big success. We had a full house, and I haven't gotten the numbers yet on our first online film, which is a wonderful crime drama called The Mohican. But we'll see how that goes without them being released in a clump. And I think we've taken perhaps a bad situation and tried to make the best of it,
Yeah.
And I think it's given us flexibility. I think it's what people are going to have to do who want to show movies publicly. They have to find new ways.
That's correct. That's correct.
Because, as I mentioned to you, it's been a crisis in foreign film, the closing of commercial theaters, because a lot of venues, including venues in Connecticut, which would book French films or German films or whatever, are no longer with us, like the Bethel Cinema, the Garden in Norwalk, which was hugely popular. They had 4 screens. All the Westport crowd would go there to see foreign pictures. And the York Square in New Haven. It boiled down to the Avon in Stamford. As far as a movie, a theater which was showing occasionally non-commercial fare. And as I mentioned to you, they're undergoing a massive renovation. They'll be closed for the next 14 months. So they were out of the picture for this year anyhow.
Of course, of course.
So, so far, and the Bruce is a beautiful museum. And I think they like our crowd coming in and being exposed to their museum.
Of course, there's cross-pollination here.
It's cross-pollination, which I think nowadays, as we said on Sunday, we have to hang together,
Right.
because we're all in the same kind of trouble or crisis or whatever you want to call it. Public performances, public screenings are not as popular as they used to be. So we have to find creative partnerships to make the public aware of the ones that we do have.
And you know, Joe, you just said it. It is up to us because with all the cuts in spending, with all the money that was set aside for, well, NPR, independent productions on PBS. I mean, we are definitely almost at war with the fact that you and I need to be
Yes.
leaders in trying to keep the arts alive. And that's what it's going to come down to. And I think
So,
we're going to see this fantastic rush of energy into that because we saw it on Sunday at
yes.
the musicians at the Bruce Museum. There were a lot of people there. They were hungry. And the other thing I think it's important to mention here with that beautiful renovation of the Bruce Museum, there's space. And there's
Yeah.
a fantastic entry area now. Everyone can actually wander, they can visit the gift store. I mean, and you talk about parking. Oh my gosh. I mean, this is such an essential issue.
It's totally essential. And they also have a cafeteria, where
Mm.
people can get a coffee or whatever.
It's
So,
Eau de Luce all the way, and it's the best of the best. The other
and
thing, Joe, I think it's very important that the focus on French cinema really stays with its original mission. And I know you talked about tri-state, but it's really Greenwich. And
yes,
when we had those two cinemas, one on Railroad Avenue, one on Greenwich Avenue, those
yes.
were vital to the community. And to see them disappear is such a blow. I mean, every time I pass Railroad Avenue, I get a tear in my eye. I'm telling you
Oh,
right
me
now.
too. I had so many good times there, and I picture the last festival where we had a crepe food truck parked outside all day
Yeah.
so people could have French snacks between the
Mm-hmm.
movies. It was
Fantastic.
absolutely fantastic. And the lobby was great because it was like a gathering place for people to talk after the movies, which, as you know, I ran a theater at one time and I always loved hearing people's reactions after they saw something, or
Totally.
pro or con, and that's what's so important about public showings of movies is a movie's better when you see it with like-minded people.
Oh, it's so true.
You know what I mean? There's
There's
something
that collective energy, isn't there?
totally. And then afterwards, people want to talk about it, ask questions. You can
Mm-hmm.
have guests such as yourself who know something about the subject of the film and can interact. We've got to keep that alive.
Yes, we do. And I have to say right now, one thing I love about your new format, when you have three films running at the same time, it's very difficult to make a decision about what to
Oh,
attend. And now you're giving us carte blanche to be able to space this out and plan and look forward. Because I know whenever I attend the Turner Classic Movie Film Festival on,
yes,
on Hollywood Avenue, they've got so many films running at the
yes,
same time. It is a
yes,
real struggle. I mean,
yes.
trying to make that decision.
And it drains you of energy in a way too, because I've gone to many festivals and like if you start at 10 in the morning,
Yeah.
and you end up seeing 3 or 4 films by the evening. I and I hate to admit this because I love film festivals, but I think some of the films suffer by seeing them that way.
Yeah. I do
And I
too.
mean, because you're not as focused. Whereas when you're going to see a movie, you give it your full attention. You don't have to do anything before or after. So yes, the end of some film festivals in that format where you're just immersed in movies for a weekend is
hmm
sad.
hmm
But there's something to be said for focusing on each individual film.
Right. No, I think you've just said it so eloquently. And bravi to all of you at Focus on French Cinema for laying this out because we know, you and I know what energy this takes to mount a festival like this.
And I must say, I do a lot of work. I watch a lot of movies. I do a
hmm
lot of discussing in advance. But Renee Ketchum, she's the one that has to go out there and negotiate with these distributors, to
Right.
get the film locked down. And something, it may be a little esoteric for your audience, but the French film industry still wants their films to be seen in theaters. And it's taken a while to educate them to the fact that theatrical marketplace has changed radically. So if we can't get if we can't get a film for a public screening, we ask if we can get it, for an online.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's still a challenge because I mean the French love movies, and apparently the movie theaters there came roaring back. Cinema is in French people's blood. So they are doing very well theatrically. And I remember when we had one of the directors come over a year or two after COVID, she didn't quite, I don't think she quite believed us as far as the challenges in theatrical. But
Yeah.
when she came here and she saw what was going on, even in New York City,
Yeah.
said it's a different situation here than it is in France.
It
So,
is entirely.
but
Yeah.
we've slowly educated the distributors, and this Les Musiciens, which was our opening film, you know, we were able to get the U.S. premiere, and not to toot our own horn, but part of that is because there are fewer places that will show these films. You know what I mean? That's the sad part of it is
Wow.
that if we didn't show that film, it may or may not turn up on one of the streamers, 6 months to a year from now.
Right.
But you don't know for sure, So, uh, and one of the genius aspects of Renee and the panel that created this thing 21 years ago was coming up with the title "Focus on French Cinema," which gives you sort of a loose title. It didn't say "Focus on French Cinema Festival." So they created a label which fits online, which fits screening it even outside of Greenwich when we were doing Stamford. So that they came up with a great label, a great brand,
That's wonderful.
not realizing what was going to be happening in 2020 with COVID and the decline
Right.
of theaters.
Right.
Yeah.
In answer to everything you're saying, I have to say, with several trips to Europe that I've made in the past few years, it's astounding to me that when COVID was over, people did rush back, not in only to the movie theaters, but to opera and to the orchestral concerts. So when I would speak to them about we don't have the same confidence in America, you're right, they didn't believe me. They couldn't understand
Right.
our dynamic.
Yes.
And our dynamic has been so profound that you and I know we've lost not only movie theaters, but some performing arts theaters. And I'm so gutted that the Long Wharf Theater, which has
Uh,
spawned the talent of so many greats who have walked the Great White Way, is now gone.
when I was a journalist, for many years for Hearst, I can't tell you how many great stories I had from Long Wharf,
Mm,
Richard Dreyfuss, John Lithgow, Kathleen Turner, you know,
mm,
Athol Fugard. I did a couple of interviews with him because he fell in love with the place and had US premieres there, So the fact that they're gone also shows you that even a Tony winning best regional theater in the country could not face this crisis.
right.
The subscription audience is evaporating. People just want to go one show at a time. So the theater can't plan on having that money in the bank for 6 shows being sold, So the whole ball game has changed in every art, every performing art function in the country.
If we were in England, they would be putting a blue plaque, as they do outside of where the Long Wharf was, to
Yes.
designate historically what happened there, and how it was
Oh,
originally used. And of course, we in America, we just walk on and go to McDonald's and
well,
we don't
I
think about
haven't
it.
been there. I haven't been there, but I'm told it's now a weed store.
Interesting.
I mean, it's got to become something. But the fact that for a half a century, it was one of the prominent theaters in the U.S. Indeed, when I first got here
Hmm.
in the early '80s, the first show I ever saw at Long Wharf was American Buffalo with Al Pacino.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure. I'm
You
sure.
know, so
No.
so it's one of the great Connecticut tragedies at that theater. I mean, I should say they're trying to do an itinerant model where they do individual shows around the city, but it's not the same thing.
No, it's not. Just historically, we have to get behind not only the art form itself, but our venues.
The institution.
I'm excited to see in New York City that they're doing that with various movie theaters. You know, the Metro on the Upper West Side, the big renovation taking place. There are several. You know, even down to actually preserving the organs in some of these movie theaters across the country. You know, who would have played for silent films or an intro. You know, it's
Well,
exciting.
I must say, Pam, that I think the showing of movies will continue in major urban areas, but I think it's going to disappear in places that have had movie theaters for 100 years
Yeah.
because of this trend. You know, there are movie lovers clustered in New York and Los Angeles and Chicago who
Right.
will support these nonprofit theaters.
Right.
But you have what are now called movie theater deserts in the Midwest, where people, in order to go see a movie in a theater, have to drive more than an hour. And even here in Connecticut, every month or whatever brings us in. Like I read last week that the theater in downtown Middletown closed.
Oh, I'm so
You know
sorry.
what I mean? So
Yeah. Hmm.
we're losing these theaters rapidly, and uh, I don't think that trend is going to reverse, sadly. You
Yeah.
know, so I think we're going to have to find new ways of showing movies to the people who are diehard movie lovers,
Like us.
like us.
Now, tell me, I want to know just quickly for our listeners, so we can get right to it. How do we obtain tickets for the Focus on French Cinema?
You can either go to the Alliance Française of Greenwich website, which will direct you to the ticketing site, which is one of those long, it's on Eventive, you know, is
Ah, okay.
where we sell it. I think it leads you to that. That will keep you up to date on what the next movie is. You know, like I said, there's going to be one a month. The next one is, I believe, February 8th.
Okay.
We know that's a wonderful movie called What is Love, which stars an actress named Laura Calame, who many people will know from her role on Call My Agent, that very popular Netflix.
Oh, what a great show that is. I have to say, I was obsessed with it.
Which I'm thrilled that they were going to bring it back. You know,
Oh,
it went into sort of suspension for a while, but it's going to go back into production. But anyhow, we know that movie is next. We don't know what's going to be March, April, or May yet. But if you check out the Allianz site and
hmm.
the
Okay.
Inventive site, you'll be up to date with whatever tickets are available for the next thing.
That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I'm so excited for you guys. I mean, always I discover something in the Focus on French Cinema films. And I remember once when I was asked to actually introduce the wonderful film Marguerite, which was
Yes,
actually a development of the Florence Foster Jenkins story.
yes.
And
Before Meryl did it.
but it was so much better.
It
It
was so
was
much
so
better.
much better. And that is what the French can do with cinema, and not only just from a cinematography aspect. It's just, as I said in the intro, it's just that layer of emotion that lies under the skin that we're invited into without having us bombarded with the obvious. You know, the subtlety.
Well, one thing that moviegoers pick up on too that is true of the French cinema is that unlike here, it is supported by the government and by individual territories in France that believe in film. But because, you know, there's a limit to the size of its audience, the size of its industry, it can't get into super high budget movies that have been like the death of multiplexes in a
Right,
way for older viewers. I mean, everybody complains to me they don't want to see Zootopia 2 or the latest Marvel thing or even
right.
Avatar 3. But in France, because of the way the industry is set up, the movies have to be made modestly budgeted, which means no special effects, and means the story more or less has to focus on a contemporary situation involving people. You know, and the irony is that I've had people tell me that there's more for them to identify with in contemporary French films than what they see in contemporary Hollywood films
Of
because it's
course,
closer to real life,
of course, absolutely,
you know? So that, I mean, that's,
absolutely.
I don't know if you'd call that an advantage, but it has showcased the relevance of French filmmaking to an American audience.
That's very true, Joe.
Yeah.
Very eloquently put. I love that.
And the other thing I always mention is the French film industry also does not retire actresses when they turn 40, which Hollywood has a way of doing, that they're shunted off to streaming series or playing a mother or whatever. And the French cinema is marked by stars like Isabelle Huppert, Catherine Deneuve, Nathalie Baye, who have moved beyond 50, let me put it that way, and are still having films created for them to star in. It's unheard of here. Does not happen in a Hollywood movie.
And the industry there is not afraid to speak about it, and those actresses are not afraid to speak about it.
And they're also not in it for getting a $20 million paycheck, because they know that doesn't exist in France.
Exactly.
So they're, someone like Catherine Deneuve, who's in her 80s, is still making almost a movie a year that's about her character.
Amazing.
Which, when was the last time you saw a Hollywood film about an 80-year-old woman? I mean,
exactly. Well, we've got June Squibb out there, and she's doing a great job. I mean, but she's only one, really.
She's only one. But people like, let's say, Meryl Streep, Jessica Lange, Nicole Kidman, Sissy Spacek have been sidelined. Let's be honest. Because Sigourney Weaver, they rose up in a time during the 80s when there was still a big audience for films of all kinds. And that was a rich period for actors. Meryl Streep's center of her career was in the 1980s. You know what I mean? The same with Deborah Winger. It goes on and on and on. And those were not esoteric art films. Those were Hollywood studio productions, like Working Girl and Crimes of the Heart, et cetera, et cetera. That's all gone.
But that's still our favorite films. That's why we keep looking back. It's interesting.
I don't think it's possible now in the current environment for actresses like Meryl, Julia Roberts, Meg Ryan to emerge as stars, because the theatrical movies are not there to support that.
Yeah, I think
I just saw a statistic this week that the top box office actress in Hollywood is Zoe Saldana. And I went, huh? You know why she is? Because she's been in all the Avatar movies. So they credit the grosses of this special effects spectacle to her, which is ridiculous.
That is an odd way of calibrating that.
I mean, how many people do you think went to see Avatar saying, honey, I want to see the new Zoe Saldana movie?
No.
I mean, nothing against her.
No, she's great, but
she's great. Yeah. But she's finding the work she could. Same way with Scarlett Johansson, who she unseated. But that was because Scarlett has been in Jurassic movies. She's wisely also appearing in these franchise movies. But I think it's unfair to credit the box office to an actress who happens to be in a big spectacle.
That is an unbelievable point. I knew nothing about.
Yes. I had never really put it all together until I read this thing. Zoe Saldana is the top grossing actress in Hollywood. And I was like, how can that be?
No.
And that's how it can be. She was chosen by Cameron to be one of the stars of Avatar.
Well, Joe, I know with the focus on French cinema, we will see more than Zoe Saldana for sure.
Yes.
And we'll see some of the great actors and actresses, the great directors. I know online you have your interview with Gregory Magna from Les Musiciens. Yes. And he's a very sensitive soul. That's worth your public listening to right now for an understanding of the background of that film. I'm going to be having an interview with Daniel Garlitsky, one of the violinists and actors from that film.
Can't wait to see that now.
It's really interesting to me that those musician actors were so good, and that comes from really great directing and that ensemble cast, which was dynamite. I mean, just
fabulous.
And we need films like that right now.
We sure do.
I'm going to invite all my listeners to get out there and support Focus on French Cinema for sure. So go to the Alliance Française and then focus on frenchcinema.eventive.org for tickets. And Joe, before you go, I love you as a journalist. I love our interviews when we've spoken
Yes.
about your past and how things have changed. And my gosh, we do hang on here. But I just want, because you're such a great guy, because you're teaching courses in film and the entertainment world at Norwalk Community College, I believe.
Yes, I just started one yesterday, a 5-week session on Mike Nichols and Elaine May.
Wow, talk about
Yeah,
a powerhouse.
yeah,
And there's lots to know about that couple. I mean,
lots
the
about.
beginnings and wow, how exciting. How
It's
exciting.
great. I mean, their comedy team revolutionized comedy in America, and then as individuals, they each became powerhouse director, writer.
Yeah.
So amazing, amazing couple.
How incredible. Oh boy. Have you got a good group for that? Are
Very
people
good
signing up?
group. Yeah, I not to toot my own horn, but I was told that I have the most people who signed up for winter term.
Ooh, I love it.
No, it's a great group, and you know, that's something that I never imagined I would either want to do or enjoy. Because I had experiences when I was a journalist where they would force us to go out and talk to like high school groups
Hmm.
who could have cared less about hearing about a newspaper. You know what I mean? And so I found that very uncomfortable. I did it under duress. So I didn't have the best notion about teaching.
Hmm.
But then somebody actually from the Alliance who was involved with Norwalk Community College got me to do a course there. And I liked this person. And I thought, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And of course, then I realized, well, it's different when you advertise a course topic. Only people who are interested in that topic are going to come. You know what I mean? So, duh.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. They enjoyed it, and I've taught a course there every term since then. And I love it. It's sort of like my journalism days too, because I have to research, structure. Clips are an important part.
Yeah.
Finding the clips of Nichols and May. So it's like I'm still doing journalism, but in a public forum where I'm talking stories rather than writing stories.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
So it just, my
Wow.
advice to anybody out there listening or watching is give it a shot. Try something different that you're not sure you're going to enjoy, because it's been life changing for me,
Oh, that's
but
so
without
great, Joe.
exaggeration. Yeah,
Oh, Joe Myers, I love that kind of inspiring talk. I love it. Well, this has been great, and I'm glad we had a chance to catch up
me
after
too.
the opening of the Focus on French Cinema at the Bruce Museum. Everybody, you've got to run out there and get involved in some way and buy tickets and enrich yourself with French cinema. But hey, Joe, before you go, just for fun, I have to ask you one of my signature questions, which is, if you had the opportunity to have dinner with anyone that has left this earth, and it doesn't need to be anyone famous,
Yes,
but someone who you would like to connect with, this is for one night, for one dinner, who would it be?
that's a really hard question, and I would tend to gravitate towards movies, and I would be torn between intellectual and charm and charisma and everything. So I would be tempted to say Ingmar Bergman, but I think I would be tempted to pick Ingrid Bergman because she's one of my all-time favorites. Charming woman, smart lady. She's
Amazing
said
actress.
something like the secret to uh, good health. I can't remember, but one of the secrets to good health and long life is a bad memory. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
let the
yeah. Hmm.
be. She also gave me a home cleaning tip I read once, which is every time you leave a room, you should take something that you can take out of the room and get rid of. How crazy is that? But I just thought she was like the epitome of charm. And imagine the stories she could tell about
Oh, Joe.
the decades she worked in the movie business. From Humphrey Bogart in
Right.
Casablanca to at the end of her career in life doing that Ingmar Bergman film, the
That's
Autumn
correct.
Sonata, where she pushed her. She was an actress too, who pushed herself.
That's right.
That was a risky part that she had qualms about, because it was about a mother artist neglecting her child, who becomes very angry about it. And she could identify with that. She said she focused on her career when her kids. So anyhow, that's a long-winded way of saying I think she would be a fun, interesting, charming dinner companion.
Oh, Joe, I can see you walking on air after that dinner. Oh my gosh, and the stories. Well, thank you for sharing. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And
But
I
I
want,
could give you such a long list, Pam. We could be here for hours
oh,
on
I
it.
know.
You
And
know,
I've even had guests who've written to me afterwards and said, "Wait a minute, I want to change my answer. Can we retape?" I'm like, all of us, and it depends on the day, but all of it was when we muse about this. I mean, it's so interesting how we change
I
during our
would,
lifetime.
Eleanor Roosevelt,
Yeah. Oh,
Jacqueline
yes. Oh my
Kennedy. You know what
gosh.
I mean? You could go in so many different directions with so many different kinds of people.
That's right.
Yeah, no, that's
That's
a
right.
great question.
Well, we'll keep asking it. And next time we meet, we will ask it again and see what you come
Okay,
up with, okay?
deal. That's a deal.
Joe Meyers, thanks so much for sharing about the Focus on French Cinema. And to everyone out there, I want you really to do your research and get involved, because you will not regret it. Joe, good luck in your class at Norwalk Community College. Keep us posted about everything that's happening in your life and the movie world. And we'll do this again, I promise.
Thank you so much, Pam.
You bet. And to all my listeners, I want you to find me and now Joe on Spotify, on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, and of course at WGCH Talk Radio in Greenwich, Connecticut. So to everyone out there, stay safe. This is Pamela Kuhn, and the curtain is now down on Center Stage.